It was the night of my 10th birthday, 22nd August 2011. The whole family is gathered around at my grandfather and my grandmother's place. It's my birthday and my uncle's birthday as well. We share the same one, and it's just a normal evening. There's a lot of food being ordered, all the kids are running around. And suddenly my grandfather starts complaining of some chest pains. And in a very discreet way, without any of the kids knowing, without my grandmother knowing, my mom and her brother, my uncle, they decide to drive him to the hospital just to see if there's something wrong. They didn't know what was happening at all. I don't remember the last time I saw my grandfather. I have no memory of how he left or when he left, any of that. But all I know is that while he was in the car, while they were on the way to the hospital, he passed away to heaven. Hello everyone and welcome back to Shelf Life. This is Simran and this is a podcast where we discuss books, their philosophies, but most importantly, our personal relationship with the book. And today, the reason I started with that intro is because today is a very special episode and it is completely dedicated to my grandfather. And which is why I wanted to have the guest that we have today. I wanted to have her here because there's no one in the world who knows my grandfather or who knew my grandfather better than her. I think she is someone who introduced this book to me, Jubel's Children, the book that we're going to be discussing today. She's the one who gave me the book, and more on that later, but let me just introduce her to you. Her name is Dr. Sushma Mendon. She has been a dental practitioner for more than 25 years. She is a super mom of 2 kids and a million cats. And she's the most awesome person ever. She is my best friend. She's my toughest critic. She's also the first storyteller that I ever met, because I think I get all of my stories from her. So, Mom, welcome to the podcast.
That's quite an introduction that you've given me, and thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. So, we're going to discuss about my favorite book.
And your favorite person.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Jubel's Children.
Yes.
By
Leonard Kaufman. Let me give you like a little. First of all, just tell us, how do you feel being here on this podcast?
Yeah, I'm nervous, but it's the book. In fact, I volunteered to be here because I wanted to talk about the book.
Yeah, you really wanted to talk about the book. Yeah. Actually, so just to give you all a little bit of info on my mom, she reads a lot and she's been reading a lot, throughout her life. But which is why when I told her that we were doing this podcast and I wanted her on it, we really racked our brains about what book we wanted to talk about, right? We discussed that a lot and we decided that this was the perfect book because it didn't just relate to our lives, but it has so much history, right? Yeah. It has the history of our whole family.
Yeah. I like you said that I buy a lot of books, but I don't think I read a lot of books because I'm not able to finish a lot of books. I get very passionate about the books that I like, and I can reread them over and over again. So there are a few books which I'm passionate about. So Jubel's Children, I think, starts this entire passion for me. This is where it started, and then I had, I think, Wuthering Heights and So and so Jubel's Children, I think the first time I read it was when I was 14.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just love this book because my dad bought it for me. In fact, we had a kind of a ritual or a routine where during vacations I used to go to his office, which was in Fort area.
Right.
So I used to spend the entire day with him, and my dad was like a hero. For me, he was a hero, and he was spending time with him was the best thing that a person can do.
Right.
So there was no boring moments around him. So it was all fun. So we used to go in the morning by 8 limited bus and spend the entire day there, and then come back again by the same bus. And there was a book stand on the road. They used to sell a lot of books. So we used to pick books from there. So this was, one of the many books that he has gifted me. And he had the habit of, addressing it to you, and so it just that thing. And among all the books that I have read that he had gifted me, this stands apart because it's about a father and his 4 children. So that connection was always there for me.
I love that. I mean, I love that you weaved in the story of Grandpa, and also you connected it with the book. So the book is about a man and his children, and his relationship with his children, and it basically talks about how this one man, this father, influences his grown-up children's lives, even after so much time has passed, and even after they're all, working and they have their own lives. But he comes in and he just swoops in and he just changes everything for them, and he just sorts them out. And it's so lovely that you said that about Grandpa, that he introduced you to books and he took you to that book stand, and he was a reader as well, right? He read a lot.
Yeah. He read a lot, and he loved reading. He loved buying books for us, my brothers, and we were constantly, this was the gift that we used to get from him.
Yeah, so I think whenever someone asks me where I get it from, I think it goes back a very long line. It's you, and then it's Grandpa, and then it's a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, but we do realize this is not the same copy that.
That's a story that we should discuss on the podcast. So the copy that we have at home, the copy that I read. So basically, how I met the book. Which is a question we keep coming back to a lot, right? You heard on the podcast.
Usually our books overlap. You're reading the books.
And you've heard this. So how I met the book was obviously after my grandfather's passing, and my mom, I think it was my uncle, right, who gave a copy of this book.
Actually, my mom had, after I got married and moved out of the country, there were a lot of books lying around in the house, and as usual, my mom wanted others to read those books, and so she donated all the books away.
In fact, I think we should do we need to do a separate episode on Grandma. She is a character in herself. Anyway, continue, sorry.
Yeah, so my mom donated all the books. And unfortunately, she donated Jubel's Children too.
Yeah.
And that was I'm sure I had a big fight with her about it. But Jubel's Children, with my dad's writing on it, was lost. So after my dad passed away, I happened to mention this to my brothers. See, this is the book Dad had given. When we were going through his things, we kept talking about him a lot.
Yeah.
So my my brother, he gifted it to. He bought it over Amazon and sent it to me, and he addressed it to me again. It's beautiful. That's when you got to read it.
It's beautiful. When I got the book,
2012,
and it says by your brother's name, and it says 2012. And that's how I started to read the book, because you told me that it was, a book that Grandpa had given to you. And honestly, like all I knew of Grandpa, because I only had 10 years with him, was not much. I only knew him as the grumpy old man who used to sit on the cot and yell at the kids when we were running around.
No, that's not the one we know.
Exactly. And that's such a beautiful thing, that the way that I saw him or I knew him is so different from how you saw him. And that's connected to how we met the books as well.
Yeah.
The way you met the book is so different from how I met the book.
Yeah.
So
and all this, the reason why I love this book is because all this is, discussed in the book in a very subtle manner. Like last episode during We the Living, you discussed the pace of the narration and how fast.
Right.
In fact, all the books that I love are very slow paced, and there's nothing much happening. It is just feelings, how a person feels about certain thing and what goes on in their mind. So I was just thinking about that narrative. It's so comfortable and so slow paced that I enjoy reading that.
Yeah. I think this is something I get from you as well, because I love books that are slow and that don't really have like a plot going on. They just have characters who are living their lives in whatever they want. I think I get it from you. So, besides that, I mean, now that we have discussed how we met the book and a lot of other things, I think the reason why I started with that introduction, with mentioning how Grandpa passed, was also because there's a very interesting part in the book that you pointed out when you read it again, right? You reread the book like 2 weeks ago, right? So you mentioned this part about the telegram. You want to talk about that a little bit?
See, this book is written during the 1950s, and I read it around 1985. And again, when I was 14, and now I've read it again at the age of 49. So what I realized is, at the age of 14, telegram was, still a little comfortable to understand.
Right.
But now in 2020, when I think of telegram, it seems like such
it seems completely foreign.
And in the story, in the narration, there is the telegram reaches them, like a few hours later or after a day, and the entire day is spent doing so many other things and not knowing that the mother has passed away.
Just for context, for those who have not...
Jubel's wife, the mother, she passes away, and Jubel has to inform his kids who are all away, and he sends telegrams to them.
Yeah, they're all grown-up
kids. So the information reaches them almost after a day. And Evie, his youngest daughter, she thinks about this. The entire day she's done. She's laughed around with the kids. She's played with them, and her mother has been dead throughout that. Throughout that entire day, when she was laughing around, she doesn't know. And now because of all this WhatsApp and phone and instant information is passed, so that is a little difficult for us to relate. But then I remembered a story that my mother had told me, that when my father's mother, she was in Mangalore and she passed away, he received a telegram saying that she's passed away. So I can only imagine that there must have been a time lag where he got the information that she's no more, and all the things that he must have done during that day, not knowing that she's no more. So that kind of disturbs you. That would disturb me if I didn't know that my dad is no more and I was not around and I didn't get that information.
Right. That's such an interesting thought. I guess, I can obviously not completely relate to
telegram at all.
This story, but I think in my experience with Grandpa's death was so different. I think the way I was informed, the way I came to know, was just my aunt had just whispered it into my ear saying, okay, Grandpa has passed. So this is how it's going to be, and that's all. And that's,
you were around 6.
I was 10.
10.
I was 10. It was my 10th birthday.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to know, and I was like, that's a very strange way to get to know any information like this. But yeah, I mean, I can only imagine how strange it must be for, you know, someone like that to know a day later. You don't know the last day of someone you love's life is, you know, you were just like not doing anything. You were living your own life. That's very interesting. I thought that was a very smart observation you made, Mom. So good job with that. And you know, that really brings us back to another thing in the book. And again, you pointed this out because you read it just now, and you really love the book, right? And you said that there was this one part in the book where the kids, you know, after they learn about their mom's death, they all come up to meet their father and to, you know, pay condolences and everything. And there's a part where, you know, they're just talking about their lives and stuff, and one of them mentions that I guess we never asked about Dad. We never asked him how he was.
Yes.
We were always used to him being all right.
Yeah.
And that really got me into thinking, you know, about just the general how we perceive our father's roles in our life.
Yeah.
Just
you take it for granted that
Yeah.
because you have created such a superhero. You know, he's perfect, and nothing can go. I mean, he is the one who takes care of everything. That is the feeling you always have. So even when when Jubel, he loses his wife, the children come in thinking that Jubel is going to be okay. So nobody has thought about that. Like, how is he going to be? Because he's 70 plus. So everybody has come in with their own agendas. They all have their grown-up problems. 4 kids. In fact, the narration is such that the first half deals with each individual child who is traveling back, and from his point of view. Or her point.
Yeah.
And the second half is when Jubel goes to live with them, for 3 months. So it's very easy to take it for granted that your dad is fine. So you don't actually sit down and say, oh, how are you, and what's going on in your mind, because however grown up you are, you even at 50 or even at 40, you think that is going to be fine.
Yeah, I think it's especially more with fathers, I think, than mothers. I think mothers, we still have some kind of idea as to what might be going on, but with fathers, you really just don't know. You don't know anything, and that's, I mean, you can attribute that to the kind of society we live in and everything, all of that jazz, but even besides that, you really don't know. And you pointed it out that in the book there's also this other line that one of the other characters says, that Helen says that at what age do parents become people? And that was a very strong line, I thought, and that connects to what we were just talking about. I mean, when did your dad become a person and not just your dad?
My dad stayed a superhero throughout. He was, for me, it was never a dad. It was always a superhero till he died, or even now. When I talk about him, it's somebody who's perfect, not human. It's something else. But Mom, because I was, in fact, growing up, like how Helen discusses it too, that, you have these phases where as children, you adore your parents and you love them. And then as teenagers, you start, hating them a little more. And
hating them
is a strong word. Hating them more, you hating them enough to be ashamed of them. That's how she puts it.
Rebelling is how I would put it.
You're ashamed of being around them, or what they do, or their lifestyle, or how they live their life. So, and by 20s, you are so eager to get out of all this, and I'm sure, I can relate to it, because I was like that. At 20, I loved them, but I wanted to get away from all this. So the thing is, I related to and throughout, again, my dad was perfect. It was my mom who went through all these phases with me, like.
Right.
So, I actually thought of my mom as a woman and not just a mom was after I got married and had my kids. I could relate to her more because I could see all her issues that she used to go through, and I used to ignore, and I used to think, no, this is nothing. But then you live your life, you have your family, and you deal with the same issues, and you realize that. And as a woman, for her to go through that, must have been difficult. So that I can say that was the time when I realized that she was an individual who had her own needs and her own problems, which I ignored throughout. So that could be the age, I think.
Yeah, that's really something. I mean, I was thinking about this myself as well. Like, when did you and Dad become people to me, or have you all are you people to me already? I think you are. I think I do see you both as individuals and not just my parents. I think I've probably seen you as a person longer than I've seen Dad as a person. I think you were always, because I was maybe around you also more, I spent more time with you. I fought with you also a lot. we disagree on quite a lot of stuff, but I think I saw you as a whole human being before I saw Dad as a human being. And I think for me, when I saw Dad as a person was probably the first time I think I saw him cry was when I saw him as a person. I saw him not just as, okay, this is my dad, he's always going to be this way, but they also have emotions and you also go through stuff. That came in much later. I think with you it was probably around the time Grandpa passed, when I saw that, how much it affected you and the kind of impact that he had on you and how he had shaped you, essentially. That really made me look at you as more than just a mom. You were also a daughter. You were also a person who had a very strong relationship with her father and all of that stuff, right? So that was, for me, that was that. And I thought that was such a smart thing to add in the book as well. I mean, the book obviously deals with parenthood as a theme, but it also deals with individualism. Like, how do you look at yourself, right? The whole book is about how the kids look at themselves differently when this father comes in. And
I think they describe the how he triggers the change. In fact, the change was always there. They were looking for a change, but they could not decide to make that change. But the presence of the father, in fact, he never interfered with any of their lives when he was there with them. Like, for 3 months, he spends the entire year with them. And he acts as a catalyst. Without actually doing anything, he manages to bring in a change, and they start thinking differently and doing these things that they wanted to do.
Right.
So to begin with, they didn't want to take their dad with them because it would change their the lifestyle and the way they live, and Helen with her relationship with a married man, which is just giving her.
Oh my God, she just gave me a spoiler.
No, I had no spoilers. We discussed that already. It's
our producer,
it's like an everyday.
Our wonderful producer is going to kill us both.
So like I said, this is like a story that we all go through and all deal with. So there are no spoiler alerts or anything like that. It's life. Yeah. And that Jubel has 4 kids with different problems, and Bertram with his itch for money, he just doesn't know when it is enough, and he can never have enough. And the entire reason for taking his dad was to get some money out of him. And Helen, like I said, with her married boyfriend who will never give up his wife
and her work
but that's she's not happy. She's not happy.
No,
individually nobody seems to be happy. Which it's sad. there's a place where Jubel sits and thinks about how he's getting to know his adult children better. Like you know your kids when they're young, but once they grow up, spending time with them is giving him that chance to understand them. Then he wonders whether Amy should have known them, or it's better that she doesn't know
Amy
them.
is his wife.
Yeah. So because he realizes that the children are not happy,
right.
In their own way. Evie has a drunk husband, and Jubel is struggling with his theatre career. Jubel Junior is struggling with his theatre career. So he realizes that they're not happy individuals.
Yeah.
And as parents, when you're taking care of your kids, the only aim is that they find happiness.
Right.
So this is like for Jubel also to understand that these individuals are not happy, but I love them just the same, just the way they are. And I realized that because when I read it for the first time, the book, I was only picturizing my mother's father, my grandfather.
Your grandfather?
My grandfather.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I could not place my parents there because they were all young.
Yeah.
I was 14. So my grandfather, who had 6 kids, I could see that the children thought they were taking care of them. But what I could see was that all their problems were being solved or taken care of by this old man. He was really old. For me, my grandfather looked very old, and but he could micromanage all these issues for them.
Isn't it?
And now,
I'm sorry I'm cutting you off here, but isn't it really strange that both of us we read the book, and when we read the book, isn't it crazy that you pictured, even though the book is about a father and his children, you pictured your grandfather and I pictured my grandfather as well.
Yeah.
And that is a little strange. I mean, I don't know, why do you think that is?
My father, I cannot place it here at all.
Yeah, even I can't place my dad here.
Because my mother, yes. Because right now my mother is going through the same phase where she spends time with her kids individually.
She is a grandmother.
She is a grandmother. After losing my father, now she spends a year with my elder brother and some time with me. And then, so what I'm seeing is my mother doing what Jubel was doing. Where you don't tell her your problems, but she already senses that there is something happening in your life, and just her presence kind of smooths out things for you.
Yeah.
Which it just happens. You don't realize her making any change in your lives, but just her being here smoothens out things for you, or lets you take decisions that you have been putting off for a long time. So
and this was another interesting thing that you said, and I really liked it. This theme of the subliminal role that our parents play, not overtly there, but it's always somewhere simmering underneath the surface, right? That even for me and my sister, obviously, for us, I think you and Dad, you've never forced us to do anything. You've never forced us to be any way or do anything. You've just you've kind of just pointed us in a direction and we just went there. Or we went in whatever the direction we wanted to. But I think, that catalyst for change, I think parents need to be that first, right? Before they can be anything else. They need to be a catalyst, not necessarily the ones who are sitting on your head and getting you there. They need to just let you be. I think that was really, really cool that you said that. Yeah, that was really beautiful. One more thing that we can talk about, and this is again something you pointed out. It's about, this is probably the last segment that we can go into since we're running out of time a little bit, but you talked about Evie's sadness. And this is something that we disagreed about, but I wanna present both ends of the spectrum here. I wanna present both arguments here so that our viewers can decide, which one they agree with. So just you wanna
see, yeah.
You wanna
explain? I'd like to first present Evie to them. Like Evie, they've described Evie
just
as somebody.
Explain that situation.
Yes, Evie is somebody that people cannot. That's how they've described her. That people can't dislike her. it's very easy to like her. There's a lot of people like that.
What's the word for it? Congeniality.
Okay.
Congenial, right? Miscongenial.
And she didn't have any hate in her, and like her father describes her as like, you don't have any hate in you, it's just light, so she thinks it's because she's blonde, but it's the feeling that she's a very gentle person,
right?
And she has an alcoholic husband,
right,
who she married because he's the kind of guy who can, they have described it this way, who can make black things look grey by talking, by a little talking, and a lot more of it, she can make it look white.
Yeah.
So she's in a bad place with this guy. So she has no money, and she was traveling and with kids, absolutely no money. Her car breaks down. So she does something for money. In a motel, she does something which she's ashamed of. So what we were discussing is that a lot of times we do not discuss this. We put it away, and it is our own personal woe, and we keep it for us to be ashamed of, because it's kind of an outlet for us. We let it make us sad. We do not want to discuss it. But you were saying that
I don't agree with that romanticization of something that you some kind of shame or some kind of guilt that you have. I don't agree with. Basically, our discussion was about how that line was written, right? You said that it was written as her own private misery and her own private woe.
Yeah, I'd read it out for you. It was her own woe, and she would keep it to wake her in the night, scared and sick.
Yeah, that I think my problem with that is
when she's ashamed of what she's done. She did it for a reason. She needed the money to reach a place, and she had to do it. She had small kids.
Yeah.
But it is something that she is ashamed of, so she cannot say it to anybody else. When you're ashamed of what you've done, you do not narrate it to somebody else, even if that would give you a lot of peace.
Yeah.
And in a certain way, you do not like what you did, so you want to punish yourself. So you keep that and you suffer it.
Yeah. So. I don't agree with that philosophy that you have to make yourself suffer, or your sadness needs to be your own. I don't know. I mean, I understand.
I'm sure that after she spoke about it to her father in the end, when he's there with her, she finally tells him, because she's just it's a kind of a breakdown where she puts her head on the knee, which is a childhood habit, like we always do, when you're around your parents. Even when I'm 50 or 49, I do all the things what I used to do as a child. You go back to that place. So she does that, and and I think it gives her relief. It helps her make. But it's not what we usually do. I mean, I could totally relate. If I have done things in the past, then I would not like to discuss it because it's mine and I'm ashamed of it. That's it.
I think this is how we differ, like, on a foundational level. Mom likes to own her sadness, own her anger. She likes to have possession of her feelings, and I don't. Whenever I get into any kind of mess, all I want to do is run from it, or give it to someone else, or just abandon it somewhere. But I guess there is no right or wrong way to look at it. I think there are.
That was good. That good and bad, the choice between.
That's a part of the book, right?
Yeah.
That.
Usually you don't get to choose between just good and bad, because that's an easy choice. It's good and the next best, best
and the next best. So, and I think that's
the difficult choice.
That's the difficult choice. You don't really have one specific thing that is that will work for everyone. There's no formula for life, right? You deal with it your own way. And
probably your listeners will give us
they can. They totally can. They can tell us which part of this argument they agree with. Anyway, that brings us to the last part of the podcast. Our favorite question. And this I want you to answer. I'm not going to be answering this. I just want you to be answering this. Mom, why do you think this story was told?
Because this is a story that everybody can relate to. This is a story that every parent goes through and every child goes through. So, and in fact, this is a story that's been told over and over again. It's just that this narration is so beautiful, it's so simple and yet so intense that it keeps me attached to this story. Yeah. But this is an everyday story of our life.
Yeah, I think that's such a beautiful thing. And the most beautiful stories are the ones you already know. The ones that you have lived with, the ones that you have, spent your whole life with. And those are the stories that really stay with you, that get into your skin and they just don't leave. And that's a really beautiful thought. I think we can wrap this up with that thing that, this book almost, I would like to think that it has become like this family legacy sort of thing. I think your dad gave it to you. I think I could give it to my kids, and we could all share in and have million more podcasts about how we love this book. So there's that. And I really loved having you on this episode. Thank you so much for your stories.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your stories. Yeah, thank you for giving me this book and for giving me all the books that you have given me. And thank you for talking about Grandpa.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, he was really some man. This was fun. Anyway, next week we have a very cool book. We have 1984 by George Orwell. I'm sure a lot of you have read it, but if you've not, you can pick it up and we will discuss it at length. It's going to be our first dystopian book on this podcast, right? The first one, yeah. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much, Mom, for coming. I hope you had fun.
I did.
You did? Okay.
I hope to come back.
Yeah, we will have you back. Okay, so I'm going to go now. Bye.